Alright, hi, I'm Jason. I'm a professional photographer here at Stuart Nimmo Photography in Greymouth in New Zealand, and this is another in a series of videos explaining things about photos, and this is going to be talking about colour spaces or different ways that the colour can be described in your file. So the most popular way, and the way you'll generally come across, is RGB, and we're going to focus on that. I'll mention the other types. RGB is generally what you're talking about, because cameras capture light in RGB. It's a transmitted light, a transmitted colour space. So it describes the red, the green, and the blue of each pixel in your image. So it describes each pixel in terms of red, green, and blue, how much of each there is on a scale of 0 to 255. So if they're all 0, you've got black. If they're all 255, you've got white. And any combination in between can represent all of your colours. And aside from RGB, the main other space that you may come across is CMYK. Now that's a specific type of way of describing colour for print output, and it's talking about reflected colour, and it's talking about inks. So we've got cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And black's got a K because B was already in use for blue. So CMYK, the black K is black. Might be a little bit confusing at first, pretty easy to remember once you start to talk about it. And that's talking about cyan, how much ink is on the page, of how much cyan ink, how much magenta ink, how much yellow ink, and how much black ink. Cyan and magenta you've probably come across, basically blue and reddish. So 100% magenta and 100% yellow, for example, make a really good rich red. Magenta's kind of pinky by itself. Cyans are kind of nice sky blue. 100% cyan and 20 to 50% magenta makes a nice royal blue, and various combinations of all the colours make a pretty good, what we call a gamut of colour for print output. You can throw in extra special colours, they're called spot channels, but that's getting in a little bit into detail, but then you have an ink that's a particular colour and throw that into the mix to get highlighter, electric yellow, or something that's not capable of being produced by these inks. But that's getting a bit complex, so we'll focus on RGB coming back here. Now your photograph out of your camera comes out with a range of colours, and their kind of brightness is determined by these numbers that are generated. So if, for example, we had 0, 85, 0, for example, is a colour that I have been using recently for a little project, and that's a really nice foresty green that I was using for some photo overlays recently. That's determined by the fact there's no red. It's 85 out of 255, so it's reasonably dark. It's on the dark side for green, and because it's closer to 0 than 255, and no blue. That gives you a really nice rich green. If we went to a combination of numbers that was like 255, 200, and 173, can be anything. They don't have to round, particularly round numbers like 200. I just happened to pick that. You'll get a much brighter, lighter colour because they're all closer to 255. It's close to white, so you've got maxed out red, quite a high bright green, and reasonably bright or mid-bright blue. So that's kind of how you think about the numbers, and you can really see that if you have software so that you can find out the numbers of the colours in your image. You'll see the bright highlight areas, you have lots of high numbers, and in the dark shadow areas you have lots of low numbers. And it's not too important to know about your images what their numbers specifically are, but it is important to know how they work, and the fact that red, green, blue is talking about transmitted light. So that's what cameras capture, what scanners capture, that's what monitors throw out, it's what projectors throw out. So that's your colour space for projecting, or that's captured by a device. CMYK, if you come across it, is for print specifically. Now the one anomaly to that is that you'll find labs like RGB images, and that's because of the way that they create their prints. They're not printed in this sense, ink printed. They are a transmitted light onto a sensitive paper, so they're still photographic prints, so they like RGB. So basically for most people, all their dealings with images will be in RGB, which is all you need to really worry about. But it's worth being aware that there are different ones. There are a few others. There's one called Lab out there, and that's lightness, and then AB are two colour channels. So that separates the brightness or darkness into a completely separate channel. That's a pretty geeky colour space. And there are some more HSBs and you'll come across on the web. You'll come across hexadecimal codes for numbers. They're just another way of describing all of these, and because they're primarily used for web, they basically refer to your RGB values, and they have a hash at the start. Can look a bit freaky because they can have letters and numbers in them. Just a convenient way of describing these rather than writing out all of the numbers that you'd have to write to describe the full colour. So hopefully that's helped you understand a bit about colours, and you'll figure out what's going on when you see RGB or CMYK in future.